Something that I often get asked is maybe some advice with anxiety or feeling overwhelmed. So I would love to just, share my sense of what's been helpful for myself and my clients, maybe for the listeners. But I actually look at anxiety as wisdom. So I think when it comes to anxiety and when I help my clients through it, we do this exercise where I say, let's shift absorbing to observing, right? So let's be in a state of being in a observant mindset instead of absorbing and taking on more stress or taking on other people's problems. Let's just step back. Let's observe. Can this be something that can be fixed? Most of the time it's a yes, right? So then we start to really unpack and start talking about what are some things that are making you anxious, right? And a lot of time when you're living in this anxious state of mind, you're just concerned about the future, which is okay. And then another one that I often get asked about is, as women, we love to overwhelm ourselves, right? We love to do it all. And yes, and of course we can help with that. But the one pattern that I always was able to pick up on was, guys are so good at prioritizing their priorities, right? And then with women, we prioritize our tasks and priorities. So it's taking this step back again, working on our self-awareness. And it's like, okay, like Linda, what's really important to you today? Focus on that. Focus on the 1 to 3 things that are really important to you today. And then if you've got some room, then do your tasks, right? So it's getting into that mindset of focusing on our actual priorities rather than being overwhelmed with these tasks.
Welcome to Linda's Corner, where we bring more hope, healing, and happiness to the world. My name is Linda Bjork, and today we're going to be talking about unlocking our full potential. I'm delighted to welcome Zerina Derveni. Zerina is a distinguished life coach who specializes in empowering high-performing women and organizations to unlock their full potential. You can reach Zerina at her website, zerinalifecoach.com, and I'll include that link in the show notes. Welcome, Zerina. I'm so glad that you could join with me today.
Thank you, Linda. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. And I've been looking forward to this conversation. And I had so much fun as I was checking out your website. And I loved the term bespoke coaching. And it has that meaning of this is personally tailored. This is a custom fit. This is just for you. And there's a feeling in it of I matter. I am important. You're interested in me and in unlocking my potential because we're all individuals. So I thought that was such a lovely way. And I also think to unlock someone's potential, usually the first step is to unlock our own. Would it be okay if we hear your story of self-discovery, this journey of peeling back the layers?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, just going back to the bespoke reference, I'm really glad that you felt that way because the whole purpose of me launching my own coaching business was to have that one-on-one feeling with clients where they felt important and they felt it was an exclusive service. But yeah, let's get to my story. I think there's so much to be said there on how I got on my journey. But I think for me, just being very little, I was always just very curious. I think most kids, at my age were just doing what they were told, where I would be questioning things, and very basic things. But like, Mom, like, well, why do you have to go to work if you don't like this job? Like things like that, right? And as you can imagine, being so young and having this curious mindset of questioning why people did what they did is kind of what, had me going on my own self-discovery journey. So started when I was very young. My family was originally from Europe and we moved from Albania to Germany, stayed there for 7 years. So I found myself, even as a young girl, adapting really quickly. So I knew I had the capability to adapt, and I knew that there was something different in me where I was still like questioning things. Like I knew why people did what they did, the logistics of it. even the survival state of things. But I was still wondering, like, well, if we're not happy here, then why are we staying here? Or if, you're not happy doing this job, then why are you going to this job? So I think it started with moving country to country and seeing how I was able to adapt, but yet I was still asking those questions of like, well, why am I not feeling like this is the place for me? Fast forward, we moved to Canada, and I started also going through this phase in my life where I was meeting different people, different cultures, different communities. I had, in my young adolescence, gotten these beliefs, I guess you could say, from my environment that I had to go to school, I had to get a really good job, I had to financially secure myself as a young woman. So, of course, I started living that life where I was working really hard towards this, I guess, social standard that felt right at that time. And that quiet voice of mine when I was a little girl that was so loud started getting quieter and quieter. And I just started doing and doing. And I think looking back at my life, I was in a state of performance, right? And I think that's why, when I would achieve these huge milestones, like I had worked, Linda, for 3 different global corporations, and I was doing really well in my role. And I was being promoted. So all these great things. I even, when I was, I think, 24, 25, bought my first home. So I had reached these really big milestones, but yet I was questioning, like, what is the definition of success and who am I? And at that time, I didn't know it, but why was I always in the state of performance? So I think it really took COVID, like most of us, to really take a step back and think about, our lives and have a little bit more of that time and patience to invest in our own happiness. So my journey really started for me after I had moved in my third company, feeling kind of the same, going through these cycles. I started to pick up on that, and I said, okay, no more. Like, things have got to change. I'm starting to feel that little girl come out again, that curiosity, those simple yet really important questions of why do we do what we do? And, what's the purpose of this started coming back. And that's when I made the decision to really invest in myself and started my self-discovery journey, which included a lot of healing, right? I think I don't want to make it seem like it's all exciting. It is exciting because you're starting to learn about yourself, but you have to go through the work and do some of the healing work. And I had a few moments of breakthroughs that were so powerful that I thought, wow, I have to get into life coaching and helping women as well go through their own self-discovery journey. Right. And I think for me, that aha moment was so clear and so alignment with who I was at my core that I started planning for it for a year. And I made the step, I made the big transition of leaving security and comfort, everything that, your environment tells you is good, and took this risk in myself. And I could tell you, I've never been more happier. I've never worked harder as well, and yet just feel so in alignment. So now, for me, it's so important to help guide women into their own self-discovery journey through a personalized approach.
Wow, that was so beautiful. And there are so many important things that you brought up that are just often overlooked. And that curiosity is really key. Why? And it comes so naturally to children, and they ask so many questions that a lot of times we don't have the answer to. And so sometimes we just say, shh, shh, or we give the logistical answer like, well, I have to go to work because I need money, or I have to do this. But you ask the question of why are you doing this if it doesn't make you happy? And that questioning, that curiosity is such an important thing. It's really the first step. We need a desire to do something. And usually that desire comes from, I want to be happy. I want to feel fulfilled. I want to feel in alignment. And so when we forget about those desires, we set them aside, we forget to ask the why, then we do what we've seen, usually, what the people around us are doing. That's our default setting. And the normal standards of success are I got my first home in my 20s. I mean, wow. And I'm making really good money. I'm working for these amazing companies. I'm doing all these things. But you described it as performance. And isn't that
Yeah.
fascinating? Sometimes we
Mm-hmm.
talk about imposter syndrome, where it feels like I am performing. This isn't me. I am performing, and it's not feeding my soul. So I think that it's wonderful and amazing and beautiful that you were able to bring that little girl back up, listen to her, and then act on it. Now, with all of the skills and capabilities of a very an amazing adult. I read through all your stuff and I thought, wow, she is incredible. So now you have this skill set, then you can do something about it. So I am so impressed. Thank you for your example and thank you for becoming so that you can help others to become as well.
Thank you, Linda. No, I do appreciate that. And looking back now on my journey, I do have to say one of the greatest blessings through it all is really having that empowerment moment and choosing it, right? Um, I think, as a life coach, I am an empowerment life coach and I help my clients, or should I say, I empower my clients to find their own clarity, to find their own purpose. And I recently got asked a question of, how are you always so empowered? And I had to take a step back and think, oh, wow, that's a really good question. And, I choose it. I choose it every day. And I think this is something that I would love for the listeners to also take note of. It's not necessarily something that I, wake up and constantly feel empowered. It's every day I wake up, I say, okay, I'm going to choose to be empowered. I'm going to choose to empower my clients, and I'm going to choose to live this life full of purpose. And something else that also comes from that is this desire of wanting to contribute, right? I think when I look back at my and I don't often do this anymore. I don't look back, but I do sometimes because I think it's always good to take those lessons. But when I look back in my younger maybe in my 20s, my younger life, I was chasing this world of significance. Oh, I want to be very significant. I want to do well. I want to be successful. And now in this decade of my life, I'm so intrigued and so inspired to just contribute and bring value to either, my work or to people that I meet or even like to my community and network. It's just, I want to bring value. And the beauty of this transition or this mindset shift that I see now is significance will always follow you if you do well at what you want, what you're doing. And if you're passionate about what you're doing, I think there is this natural wave of where you will get recognized for it, but it's not anymore my default inspiration, right? I could care less now. Now it's how am I bringing value? How am I changing the lives of other women, and how am I getting them to this aha moment that I had? So it's been very impactful, but yeah.
That is so incredible. And isn't it awesome that you can have the things that you maybe desired? Like, wow, I would like to be significant. I want to be important. And the crazy thing is, the first person that we need to be significant and important to or for is ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
once we make those choices and say, you know what, I do not need to do this for your approval. I have my own approval. I choose. And I love the power that that gives. You're talking about asking questions. You're talking about also, I choose. I choose to be this. It wasn't, wow, Zerina, why are you so powerful? Why are you so amazing? And your answer wasn't, well, I was born this way and you're not. So So sad, too bad. It was, I chose to be this. We
Mhm.
have more power over our life and our experience than many people understand. And I loved how you said, I'm not fixing my clients. I am helping them, but what I'm helping them is to awaken the greatness that's already within them because
Right.
you have it and I can see it. And I want to help you be able to see it. And now the focus, the goal of I want to contribute, I want to give, I want to lift, I want to help other people. And in the process, it naturally lifts yourself. I mean, talk about a win-win. It's the best.
Yeah.
Well done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I would agree. And I think, before I even got into coaching, I thought about the results that I wanted for my clients, right? Because these are things that you want to think about clearly before you get into working with people and impacting their personal lives. It can be a very scary thing if you're not clear about the results that you want. And one thing that was absolutely important to me was to allow people to have their own journey. So, as you can imagine, after coaching so many women, I'm able, usually in the first or maybe second or third session, see the limiting beliefs, see what's blocking them, or even understand what someone's true purpose or core value is. So, as early as the first to the third session, I could see that. But it's not my job to interject and also persuade them that early on. It's my job to help give them the tools that they need. So as we're going through this self-discovery journey, whether it's midway through our sessions, they themselves have that realization. They have the tools that we've talked about to come to terms with, you know what, Zerina, this is what I want. And that's when I get the most fulfilled, is when I see that empowerment energy in them, that realization of, you know what, this is what I want. I'm not listening to anybody. I'm so clear. This aligns so well with my core values. That's when I really feel the most fulfilled, because then I know they're going to take action, right? It's not because I told them early on, oh, but this is what I see, and these are the patterns, and this is, I think that way of coaching can be beneficial for some people. I'm not saying it's not the right way, but for me, it was so important to have the women that I'm coaching live on their own terms. And how do I do that through my services? Is I guide them there and let them have that aha moment, because that's when it's really powerful. And that's when the transition or transformation, as I call it, really starts.
Wow, that is so interesting with your skills and with your insight to be able to say, oh, I see it. And instead of telling them, you continue to guide them until they can see it themselves. That would take some patience and restraint to be able to say, oh, okay, here we are. And also a skill set to be able to help people open their own eyes and have their own aha moment. Man, the temptation to step in when you know the answer is really strong. And you must have just a lot of trust in your clients to be able to say, you know what? I trust you and I can see it. And I know that you're going to be able to see this. So I would love to continue to talk about this inner dialogue, because we have stories that we tell ourselves. And there's a reason why we have to have an aha moment. There's a reason why we have to be kind of awoke. We have to wake up,
Yeah.
because there's something, we have stories that they're not true, and yet they sure feel true.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think, when it comes to reaching that aha moment, I guide my clients through these 5 levels of change, I call it, through my self-discovery program. So I think it's important to go through the different 5 levels, because I think one might work more than the other And really, for that aha moment to be truly impactful, we have to tap into other areas of our mindset. So the first one is the subconscious mind. And this is where I spend a lot of time focusing on our habits, our belief system, our emotions. So even informing my clients that 95% of our behaviors, of our emotions, of our habits are in the subconscious mind. That is already a scary stat that they're thinking, oh my God, so I've been doing this thing, but like really, like not really thinking about why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I'm feeling what I'm feeling, why I believe what I believe. So I think just that alone takes a few sessions to really uncover and really understand, what information is stored in our subconscious mind and how can we really work on getting our conscious mind more open to certain areas of our lives that need improvement, right? So I think that's one level of change where I definitely start to see some mindset shift at least. And some questions come up from the clients that I think is very powerful. And then we go into the four other areas that are also really important. So we've got somatic. So we do some body work, and usually this is really impactful for clients that deal with a lot of anxiety, which honestly, what woman does not have some sort of level of anxiety? So I think this is beneficial for all of us. And then we do some spiritual work. I think that's also very important. I think part of my transformation, the most beautiful outcome is I kind of left this business mindset, very logical part of me, which I still use for my business. I think it's important, but now I got to be more creative and spiritual and just really learn more about the whole holistic approach. So spirituality is important, and I also want to incorporate it in part of my coaching. So that's another area we focus on. And then the last two are behavioral and emotional. So I think, all five are extremely important. Now, one or two might resonate more with a specific client. That's why it's so important to treat each client as a separate person and not have any assumptions to it, but also start to really see which change is more effective and why, right? So I'm always interested in learning more that way through my sessions with my clients.
That was amazing. And that pulls back to that bespoke where you're talking about these are five very important areas. And let's find out how each of these aspects is working with you, how this is affecting you. And I'm just delighted whenever I hear people who bring in the information about our subconscious, that 95% of our brain activity is unconscious and only 5% is conscious. Not very many people understand that. And if we try to just talk it out, then we can have at least 5% success. But if we really want big change, we have to be able to access that unconscious mind. So that just makes me giggle. And I think, oh, that's why it works. I'm so proud of you. And I love that you're talking about also using the body. These things that now hopefully more and more people are becoming aware of. Guys, the body keeps the score. It's a real thing. And for a long time, most of the focus would have been what you put as number 4 and 5. We talk about maybe behavior and we talk about emotions and completely ignore the other aspects and wonder why it takes so long to gain a small amount of success. When we have correct information and the whole picture, then we can have bigger success, bigger changes in a smaller amount of time. So very impressive. Well done.
Thank you. And for me, I think it's so important to encourage more women to really tap into their intuition. Um, the whole reason why I even got into this industry and wanted to work with women is because I think they're just so fascinating, really. And our intuition is so powerful. but not a lot of us are able to use it. So, we talked a little bit about the subconscious, the somatic, the spiritual, the emotional, the behavioral levels of change. The reason why I'm bringing up intuition and women is because I think more of our decisions need to be made from our gut, from our intuitive feeling. I think sometimes our emotions, they're as important as our intuition, but they can sometimes, sway us in a different direction because of just those old beliefs or old patterns or fear, whereas our gut is actually just more intuitive and can guide us to what it is that we really want. So it's just so important to be in alignment, with your body, with your mind, and your gut to help you understand what it is that you truly desire and help you get there, right? Because once we have a vision and once that vision is in alignment with our core values, there is nothing, absolutely nothing that will stop you from getting there, right? And it doesn't matter what anybody says. To me, that is true. That is being a true, authentic woman, is when you have that mindset of like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is where I'm going to, like, what I'm going to do to get there. There's nothing that's going to stop me. No challenges, no hard day is going to push me back from reaching that purpose. So yeah, I think there's just so much to be said with leading with your gut versus maybe your emotions or feelings, because I do believe that those can sometimes sway you from fear or anxiety or just, again, your environment. Whereas your gut's like, you know what? You know this. I got this. It's this fascinating feature that we have as women that I wish, more women would tap into.
Isn't that fascinating? That intuition, it's like, I know, I already know. But
Hmm.
we don't listen to that. It's like when you talked about your story, I have this little girl inside of me asking questions, but let's quiet that down. And we have the same thing. We have intuition. We know things, we know answers, we know what we want.
Hmm.
We have a tendency to tap that down and to ignore
Yeah.
it until it's silenced and we don't even hear it or feel it anymore. Do you have any suggestions to how to help wake that up and listen to it a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first step is being self aware. So when you're self aware, you're able to look back at certain patterns of yourself. So I think this is, again, an ongoing journey. But if you start something as simple as journaling, maybe the most challenging things that you've been through, and writing down how you were able to overcome that, I think that's a really good step with first building some confidence that you're able to overcome some of the most challenging things that you've personally gone through in life. And what that does is subconsciously it gives you that confidence that you need to go through self-discovery and look at more patterns of your life. So I think starting with journaling some of the challenges that you've been through, how you're able to overcome that, that is an empowerment exercise where then you can go into some other scenarios in your life where it's like, okay, so for example, for me, I had to look at my professional life. Okay, so every 2 to 3 years, I was wanting a change because it was not for me. But why was that not for me? Right. So I was asking myself some questions like, what did I expect? What did I want? And then it's like I would then shift to the next company. But where I failed before shifting to the next company is to express my needs. And that was not the fault of those organizations. That was actually the accountability on me to be able to express what my needs were at that time. So now I've picked up this pattern and I'm just using the professional experience as an exercise. I've also picked up this pattern in my relationships, my intimate relationships, where I would leave instead of maybe voicing, this is what I need or this is what I'm looking for. I wouldn't have that courage at that time, maybe even clarity at that time to voice that. So because I know of certain cycles and patterns that I have now in my life, I'm able to prepare for those certain situations where I need to speak up. And then looking at my past behavior of how I was able to overcome challenges gives me the confidence that if I speak up, I might be able to either, fix a certain situation that requires, some sort of adjustment or some sort of a solution, or I can move on and go into another scenario where I have the skills and capability to start over because I spoke up and that scenario didn't work out. So now I can move on to scenario two. So again, that inner voice that we have, I think if you start to slowly practice and let it come out through certain scenarios that are important to you. One of the challenges I have in coaching, I would have to say, is helping clients understand that confrontation is a conversation. I always say that. And I'm like, if when we leave the session, I want this to kind of live in your brain, but remember, confrontation is a conversation. So I think getting into the habit of having those difficult conversations where you're clear about what it is that you want, or you're clear about what it is that is important to you is one of those skills that requires practice. And starting that as soon as now in the present moment is something that you can easily and slowly learn to master. So you don't spend the next 4 or 5 years living a life that's truly not in alignment with your core values, right? So I think, change truly does happen within, and you do attract your environment, but you have to speak up. I think there's so much power to that. And unless you speak up, I don't think you're going to be looking to get into a different type of life. You're going to actually be attracting what you've attracted before because you're doing the same thing, right? So journaling is so important, Linda. That self-awareness is also really important, whether it's you're speaking to a life coach or a therapist. That's completely up to the person to decide. But I think having support during that time is important.
Hey, that was so helpful and so amazing because you just added a piece of this puzzle that was missing. And it's super important. We talked earlier about, Zerina, why are you so powerful? And it's because I chose it. So now this is a piece of the puzzle of how do you choose it? It's not a magical flipping on a light switch. Oh, I just decided to be powerful. You are exercising your muscles. You are becoming aware, and you're adding evidence to help yourself have the confidence of, hey, I am writing down, I had this challenge, I had this struggle. This is what I did to overcome it. Wow,
Mhm.
I am strong. I am powerful. I am capable of overcoming my challenges. I know that because look, I have already done it. I've done it before, which means I can do it again. And then as you build
Exactly.
and strengthen that bit by bit and practice learning how to speak up for ourselves, these skills, this is not just a choice, as in I choose instantly to be this. I am choosing to become this. And it can come as fast or slow as we are able to accept, but there is a process to be able to build those skills, to build that strength, to feel, to believe, and to know what we are capable of and we're becoming as we go along. So thank you. That was a very important thing to bring up. Is there anything else you want to make sure that we cover before we close today?
Yeah, I think, Something that I often get asked is maybe some advice with anxiety or feeling overwhelmed. So I would love to just, share my sense of what's been helpful for myself and my clients, maybe for the listeners. But I think when it comes to anxiety, I actually look at anxiety as wisdom. I used to have this negative outlook when it came to anxiety, but now I look at it as wisdom. And really what it is, it's this alert letting you know, hey, maybe we need to do something about this, or just be cautious of something like that. So I think when it comes to anxiety and when I help my clients through it, we do this exercise where I say, let's shift absorbing to observing. Right. So being in this state again, back to kind of like self-awareness, but let's be in a state of being in a observant mindset instead of absorbing and taking on more stress or taking on other people's problems. Let's just step back. Let's observe. Can this be something that can be fixed? Most of the time it's a yes, right? So then we start to really unpack and start talking about what are some things that are making you anxious, right? And a lot of time when you're living in this anxious state of mind, you're just concerned about the future, which is okay. So it's having that conversation, it's being prepared, it's being in this seat of just observing, so you're not allowing, certain scenarios in your life to absorb or drain that energy out of you. So I think that's something that I often get asked, working with so many women is how do you help them through anxiety? And this is just one concept. There's a few other ones that have been really effective, but really taking a step back and looking at anxiety as wisdom, is actually something that's been helpful for me personally, being someone who has suffered with anxiety for a very long time. And then it's okay, let's take that seat of just observing why I'm feeling anxious. Most of the time, it's the uncertainty of the future. Okay, great. What can I do about the future? So it's having that dialogue with yourself, but really it's learning the tools and knowing how it's effective for you. So I did want to share that for the listener. And then another one that I often get asked about is, as women, we love to overwhelm ourselves, right? We love to do it all. And yes, and of course we can help with that. And this is where I have to give thanks to the great men that I've worked with in corporate. But the one pattern that I always was able to pick up on was, guys are so good at prioritizing their priorities, right? And then with women, we prioritize our tasks and priorities. So it's taking the step back again, working on our self-awareness. And it's like, okay, like Linda, what's really important to you today? Focus on that. Focus on the 1 to 3 things that are really important to you today. And then if you've got some room, then do your tasks, right? So it's getting into that mindset of focusing on our actual priorities rather than being overwhelmed with these tasks that we have subconsciously maybe set as a priority, but in reality, they're not a priority. And most times I will encourage my clients to just get rid of them and just stay focused on your priorities. So those are kind of 2 things I did want to also share when it comes to just maybe the listeners dealing with, anxiety or feeling overwhelmed. Those are 2 concepts that are, again, just helpful for a quick fix, I guess, for now, because you have to, of course, go through the process of digging deeper. But I do find that they're helpful if you are someone who's currently dealing with a situation where you're just more anxious or overwhelmed.
Which are two probably of the most common issues that we deal with. We feel anxious, we feel overwhelmed. And isn't it wonderful that there's something we can do about it? And the funny thing is that what we can do about it isn't always what our instinct tells us. Sometimes we think if I'm doing something about it, that means I'm fixing everything. And the answer is actually, let's step back and take a look at it first and then make some decisions. We don't have to carry it. We're going to observe it for a minute. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing those amazing golden nuggets. And thank you for visiting with me today. This has been delightful.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. In closing, I'd like to share a quote by Louise Hay. She said, "I choose to make the rest of my life the best of my life." Today, I invite our listeners to unlock their full potential and become the best version of themselves. See you next time on Linda's Corner. Thanks for tuning in to Linda's Corner podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends to help us inspire even more listeners. Be sure to visit hopeforhealingfoundation.org for free and affordable resources to help you overcome life's challenges. And explore healingbreathworkdetox.com, where you'll find transformative tools for deep inner healing and lasting change. Also, don't forget to check out my books, Crushed, A Journey Through Depression, and You Got This, an action plan to calm fear, anxiety, worry, and stress. Your journey to hope, healing, and happiness starts here.